Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. I just want to give you some feedback. The toilets will be at the back. And we do have a videographer tonight, so I hope you accede to that we will be recorded. The reason why we're here tonight. My name is Herschel Arendse and I'm a whistleblower in the Drakenstein municipality. I've been a whistleblower since 2017 when I found out that the Norwegian government were poisoning our community. And the reason why I use Norwegian government and not Yara is because of the fact that in 2019, Lindsay van der Berg, the chairman of CHAG, sent a letter to the Norwegian ambassador. And the Norwegian ambassador, and her name was Astrid Emily Healy, she came back to Lindsay and she said to him that everything on the Yara facility is hunky-dory. So for me, it's almost like the Norwegian government knew that our communities have been poisoned, okay? So let me start with this. So the Norwegian government exposed our community to high volumes of hazardous chemical substances. And the Drakenstein municipality knew this since 2003. Yara operated illegally in contravention of South African environmental laws. So therefore, Yara is illegal. Okay? They're committing an environmental crime. They're circumventing the environmental laws. The other thing what's also important is to know that in the Yara matter, there is this, the Drakenstein municipality is guilty of lies and of deception. Remember in 2019 when we were called to the community hall for that for that air quality reports? That air quality reports were bogus air quality reports. And the reason it was bogus air quality reports is because the Drakenstein municipality knew that the production volumes on the Yara facility was significantly understated to 70,000 tons. When the community met with Yara in 2019, Yara was bragging at the community that they were doing 270,000 tons. So what's happening here is that there is a pattern of lies and a pattern of deception. The important thing to note is that there's also an abuse of trusted power. The Drakenstein municipality knew that our community were being poisoned, and yet they covered up for this. In 2019, the air quality reports that we were provided at the Huguenot Community Hall stated unequivocally and clearly that the air quality or the air at the Charleston Hill Primary School was unhealthy for adults. Those are kids. So for me, it's almost like what we find is that our community has been poisoned. And the DM, not so long ago, I got a letter from the mayor of Paarl, Stephen Konrabi, who told me that he's got two new air quality reports for the Yara matter. Let us agree on something. Yara is illegal. So it's almost like you have a car that is illegal, and now all of a sudden you want to now say that, you know what, that Schumacher or you know, whoever is the best driver in the world. No, Yara is illegal. So Yara has poisoned our community, and that's a fact. Important to note is that we found a document after this Yara debacle. We found a document from AECI. Elmer Manku found this under the bridge. And AECI calls the community to a community meeting to discuss a hazardous chemical installation. We didn't have this information. It just came to us by the way. So the question that I have is that when we contacted AECI to get more information on what was happening here, what was interesting is that AECI didn't want to share this information with us. And the reason why this becomes a big problem is of the following reason. Pre-2003, AECI was operating a fertilizer facility in Milnerton. And what happened was the community forced them out of Milnerton because the community was afraid of their health and well-being. So AECI then had a company called Kainok, which then had another company called Yara. So what happened was they moved that toxic facility to Paul. And they lied to our community in terms of what the products was that they were blending. Okay, so the thing is that AECI has a link to Yara, and now all of a sudden they Paul, and they've been operating at this facility for more than 10 years, I think 15 years. So the question is, why can't we get any information on this? It is a fact that our children have been poisoned. They've been exposed to high volumes of hazardous chemical substances. Let us be honest. Toxicology is the study of toxins on the body. It is a fact that chronic exposure to low volumes of the agrochemicals that you get at the Yara site can lead to serious health and well-being impacts. In the Yara 2017 air quality report, 2016 air quality report was June 2016. Okay, Yara states unequivocally and clearly, they say that the health effects include respiratory problems, lung tissue damage, cardiovascular problems, cancer, and even premature death. What they also say is that the acid particles may damage buildings, vegetation, and acidify the water sources. You must remember that the Yara site is on a water course. It's quite interesting that on the 3rd of December 2025, I sat in the Ward 22 committee meeting where the mayor, Stephen Konrabi, was present. And when I informed him about the fact that our community has been poisoned by the Yara facility, the mayor said nothing. It is a mayor's responsibility when something as serious as that is said. And I noted that in a public meeting, that people of Paul were poisoned, and a mayor to almost like disregard that. That for me is totally unacceptable. So we need to keep the mayor accountable for what is happening. So on a daily basis, 1,200 kids were bussed into the Charleston Hill Primary School when the mayor and his Mako knew that air at the Charleston Hill Primary School was unhealthy. It's also important to note that Yara states in the air quality report that the substances on the plant can be quite dangerous and can cause significant health and well-being problems. Siraj Yara, in the bogus, it's important to note that it was a bogus High Court application of the court, case number 2235418, states in the affidavit to the court, he states that the facility could potentially give rise to emissions that have a significant detrimental impact on the health and the well-being of the neighboring residents. The municipality has a duty to these residents to ensure proper consideration is given whether the emissions arising from the extension from the facility may cause injury. My biggest problem with the Drakensberg municipality is that the Drakensberg municipality used taxpayer money to pay for 4 air quality reports. Why do we need air quality reports if Yara was illegal? What are you trying to prove? You're trying to cover up, you're trying to obfuscate. That is not right. Our people were poisoned. I mean, the unfortunate thing about poisoning of agrochemicals, it takes long before it really shows its way. What is quite interesting is that the mayor never informed the community that the Yara facility has closed. I am of the belief Yara has closed in Paul, but Yara has moved now to the Brackengate Park. Okay? What is quite interesting, if you look at the Brackengate Park map, you'll see that Yara is in the Brackengate Business Park, and they're the first one on your right. The first building on your right, and it's quite a big building. If you go on the R300 and you see Fruit and, what's that? Not Fruit and Veg. Food Lovers Market and Hamilton's, that is where they are now. So what you have is that, and this is quite scary, this next to Yara here is ESCOM. belongs to our community. Does the Minister of Electricity and Energy knows that there's a hazardous chemical substances facility next to a South African owned entity? Point number two is, if you look down here, is that there is Britos and there is the ShopRite Checkers, what do you call it? Distribution centers. But you know, what is quite interesting in the Yara case for me now is that they did the same mistakes like they did with us. They don't respect people. And you know what, in the beginning I thought this was something to do with race. It had nothing to do with race. If you look at Milnerton was predominantly white. If you look at Paul was predominantly colored, black and white. This is Brackenfell. Brackenfell is predominantly white. So for me, it's also like, what is quite interesting for me is that this is the same map, okay? If the distribution center of ShopRite is 800, less than a kilometer away from the Yara facility, we have a Curio school here. Curio Brackenfell preschool, less than a kilometer from the Yara facility. What is quite interesting, I drove into the Yara facility the other day. I drove into the Bracken Gate Business Park, and what was quite interesting, the gates in front of Yara's operations were still open. And remember, we could see those pillars with all the substances just laying there. That was there as well. So the question that I have is that we have a company that, I'm not talking about Yara, I'm talking about this fertilizer facility, that has lied to the community in Milnerton, that has lied to the community in Paul, and that has now lied to the community in Brackenfell. But I mean, like, at this moment in time, I'm not discussing, but all I'm just saying is that to the people in Brackenfell, it's time for you to start investigating as to what is happening here. The other thing that is also important for me is that we need to prepare for this meeting with AECI. The meeting was supposed to be on the 14th. The meeting has now been postponed, I think, until the 26th of January. What I'm trying to say is that we as a community need to get together, and we need to, let us be honest about it. Our children have been exposed to high volumes of hazardous chemical substances for more than 20 years. It is our responsibility to ensure that our kids are not exposed to any more hazardous chemical substances. We need to look at the next generation of them. So for me, it's almost like, oh yes. And what is quite interesting for me in the Yara case at this moment in time that makes me really furious is the fact that Stephen Conrabi and his makeover was in the Ward 22 meetings on the 3rd of December 2025 and the one in November or October. And they were quiet about the Yara, moving out of Paul. What is also quite interesting for me is that when I confronted Stephen Conrabi about the fact that Yara was on the IDP in 2024-2025, he said he didn't know anything about it. I mean, the point that I'm trying to make is that the Yara matter has been on the IDP for the 24-25 period. The question is, why did it disappear miraculously? Point number one. And point number two is, why is a mayor hiding this information from us? There's a duty of care on any mayor to stand up for the citizens. But what's happening in our case is that our mayor is standing up for the perpetrators who is killing our community. So that for me is what I wanted to say. I mean, like, we need as a community to get together and to rally around and to ensure that we fight this hazardous chemical industry that has taken almost like control of a community in hand, and to ensure that our children's futures are protected. What is quite interesting is that today I went to go and look at the back copy of the Paul Post of the 11th of December 2025, and I see to the people in Wellington, I mean, like, Intelligro is also applying for as a chemical installation. I mean, like, and what is also quite interesting is that it seems to me, Fabian and myself went with this to the fire brigade. and they didn't have a copy of this. This was the first thing that they saw. The other thing is that they did receive a letter from AECI to fill in. I mean, like, we don't have that access to that. I went to Cindy Winter, the person responsible for environmental affairs in Paarl, and I showed her this, and she didn't have any sight of this either. And me and Fabian went to Sean Rees, and he didn't have sight on this. For me, it's almost like, why is companies, big companies, trying to almost like sidestep the law when our children's futures are at risk? So for me, that is all I wanted to say for tonight. Is there any questions that anybody wants to pose?
If I can just come in, somebody maybe stumbled upon the live stream and hear a lot of allegations in terms of what these businesses may have done or allegedly did. Can we just maybe get some background on what this is based on in terms of possible sicknesses and evidence in terms of what
for me,
we're talking about?
Like, you know, the truth of the matter is that there is international peer-reviewed research on agrochemicals, and it is the type of agrochemicals that is on the Yara facility. What is important to note, this is a Yara air quality report. And the air quality report, I don't have to say, this is what Yara says. Yara says that the health effects include respiratory problems, lung tissue damage, cardiovascular problems, cancer, and premature death. So for me, it's not a thumbs up. It is a fact. I mean, you know, for me, it's almost like the reason I take this so seriously is because the fact that, you know, we were promised when we did 94 that we're going to get a constitution that will protect our communities. I mean, like, what is happening here is that when I took on the Drakenstein municipality on this, the municipality sent me a legal letter that they would like to take me to court. I was in that meeting with Stephen Konrabi on the 3rd of December 2025, and I said to him, stop, please stop threatening me. Do the letter because I got the facts. I mean, and the other thing is this, is that Siraj Johar, I mean, and this for me is very important. You may not realize it, but it's scary. But Siraj Johar is the one, if you read, and for me, all the information that you need is on the Charleston New Action groups or webpage, and it's under files. And this is the Siraj Johar affidavit. I mean, I think what is quite interesting is that the municipality in let me explain to you this one quickly. In 2018, what was the name? Alice Wilton was part of our group. And what happened was the Drakenstein municipality was scared because Alice Wilton is one of the best administrative lawyers, municipal administrative lawyers in South Africa. And what happened was the Drakenstein municipality took themselves to court. So I should say, they took themselves to court. They took themselves to court. They did. And they asked that, can the court please allow them to rescind the decision and to make that decision again? That was in 2018. I attended a meeting with Fabian and with some other people on the 5th of November 2020, and that was not a bogus meeting, that was a sinister meeting. When the Mayoral Committee produced 2 air quality reports, of which both were bogus because the production volumes were understated, and both reports was not signed. You see, the thing is this, is that what's happening in the other case is that it's called obfuscation. They want us to think that, you know what, because the air quality reports that they are trying to create is going to get us off the scent. No. The Yara facility was illegal. The Norwegian government is responsible for poisoning our community. That's the end. Sorry for that. Sorry for going off like that. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, but the thing is this, is that we need to stop keeping Drakenstein municipality accountable, stop keeping Yara accountable, stop keeping AECI accountable. Stephen Konrabi is the leader. Stephen Konrabi is supposed to lead. there is a duty of care of Stephen Punrabi in a matter like this to do the necessary investigations. Our children was poisoned. Every day 1,200 kids were sent to the Charles Neal Primary School while knowing that there was a fertilizer facility less than 300 meters away from them. I mean, it's the mayor's responsibility to say, you know what, stop, we just ask what happened here. And if our children were poisoned, then the question is, what is the remediation for them? Does that make sense? So for me, this is what it's about. It's about one person taking responsibility, and it should be Stephen Punrabi. That is just my view on it. Sorry. So that's it for me. I mean, like, what we will do is, we will try, I mean, like, I don't think we have too many people here tonight, but what I will try and do is, we need to set up another meeting, because everybody knows the facts at this moment in time. There is facts on the table. And for me, is after having that other meeting, we must then ensure that we send a team that is knowledgeable and well read on the facts of the AECI application. And the reason for this is that AECI has been operating for more than 10 years. Question is, why are we only knowing as a community about the hazardous chemical installation? That is what I have to say. So I will set up another meeting, and I will send out a WhatsApp number to all the groups, and whoever wants to join that group can join that group. But that is what I wanted to say this evening. Is that fine? Everyone happy?
Also, from it just come in here. I've got here the Personal Health and Safety Act of Regulation 85 of 1993. And here under major hazardous installation stipulates that general duties of the local government without derogating from the provision of the National Building Regulation and Building Standard Act of 1977, Act number 103 of 1977, no local government shall permit the erection of a new major hazardous installation at a separation distance less than of which poses a risk. That is now airports, neighboring independent major installations, housing and other centers of population, or any of similar facilities. So what AECI is coming with, or forth, is they want to come produce to us a risk assessment that they give. Now, how can you do a risk assessment if you haven't done an EIA?
See, what we don't realize is that these guys, the fertilizer companies, this is their modus operandi. This is how they operate. I mean, like, AECI was part of that group that came to Paul with the Yara application. Okay. So what happens is that they can come to us with the EIA. That's why Sean Rees doesn't know about this. That's why Cindy Winter doesn't know about this, because they're not coming for environmental impact assessment. They're coming via the Occupational Health and Safety Act. They're coming the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So what they're doing is they're coming with a back door. But the thing is, this is that the reason why these companies trigger the environmental laws is because they are storing and handling hazardous chemical substances. If you do that, you trigger the environmental laws. And for me, it's almost like it is not Drakenstein municipality's prerogative to interpret the law any way they want to interpret the law. The law is clear. It is there for a reason. It's there to protect us. But what has happened in Paul is that the Drakenstein municipality has been weaponized to keep us the way we are at this moment in time, to be silent. You understand what I'm saying? And for me, it's almost like if you look at the turnout tonight, I mean, like, we are few people, I mean, like, and this issue affects every single individual and every single child involved. So for me, it's almost like, I understand what you're saying there, but this is all backdoor stuff, and that's the reason why I'm so upset about this.
But they can be kept accountable.
They should.
Because of not following this.
They should. But the question is following this one.
And just one thing is, the local government, they are, according to this act, they are responsible. And what's it? Mayor Kurabi said in that meeting on the 3rd of December last He doesn't know anything about this. He was talking about 258 emails that he mentioned. That is not our responsibility. He should be on par with everything that goes on in Drakenstein. And you know, also what was actually everybody, what was so amazing is when we went there to this fabricate, the fire chief did, we asked him for a contingency planning. He said in his words that they must make use of other like Stellenbosch and stuff. If something happens here, explosion or something, what is the reaction time going to be?
Do you know?
AECI zou daar een kantoor van
Ja.
dan met Stellenbosch.
Yes.
Jy is nie ernstig.
Correct. Hy het gesê in Wellington is het, but they are not equipped. You must have specialized vehicles and stuff to go into that area and stuff. Like Stellenbosch got a hazmat truck, which they are capable of doing spillages and this fumes and all this stuff. So that, but to come from Stellenbosch to, I mean, to Paul, how long is that going to take you? And how many people is going to lose their lives and stuff in that time, the time frame?
You know, I think what was quite scary was when we saw the fire chief, was the fact when he said something about our post building, where they applied for a hazardous chemical installation. And then they, after they applied for the installation, they realized that they don't have that chemicals anymore. So they're not the hazardous chemical installation anymore, so they don't need to do that application anymore. We must ask what is happening. I'm glad to bring it into it to see that person. Because this is what's happening in Poland. We've been fighting the Yara. I mean, in 2003, Sheldon started with the Yara. We started in 2026, 23 years later, and we're fighting Drakenstein municipality. And Yara is moved. Yara's not over in Poland, Yara's now in Drakenstein. And what is quite scary for me at this moment in time, and I feel like this is the Brackengate, what you call it, website, right? What is scary for me is that when I go to the Brackengate website, I see this. The question is, what does this company have to do with all of these things? The question that I still have is, why is a chemical substances plant situated so close? Why is a chemical substances plant situated so close to ESCOM, which is a key facility? I mean, and the question is also like, if anything, this is a hazardous chemical substances plant. If there's an explosion, I mean, like we have seen what has happened in Beirut and all of those things on the line. So it's almost like, you know, these things doesn't happen overnight. What we need to realize is that we're not dealing with, and I've realized it now, this is not one or two people, this is people that run the country. So for me, it's almost like it becomes dangerous.
And if you go look at the partnerships, remember we spoke about the PIC.
Yes,
the PIC, they are the main guys sitting financially wise behind this company.
No. Relax. It was not. Remember one thing, that although we're having this conversation and although I'm so candid, the reason I'm candid is because facts. I mean, like, for me, it's almost like I agree with you that the PIC, the thing for me is in the AECI matter. This is not an AECI matter for me. This is a PIC matter. We go after the PIC. Because the PIC, we need to say, you know what, our companies must be ethical. Does that make sense? Our people were poisoned in Paul. That's a fact. I mean, like, and the point is, I mean, like, if you look at tonight's meeting, I mean, like, all the other meetings that we had, it was always small groups of people. But the other thing that I want to say is that I've been part of this group since 2017, and we're still running. And the other thing is this, is that, what's that guy's name? NT Groenewald can say whatever he wants to say. We chase Yara out of Paul. But there's a bigger problem for Yara. They still have to rehabilitate that grounds, and that needs to come to the community. And that we put at the door of one person only, the Norwegian government. Because Norwegian citizens was profiting on the health and the well-being of people in South Africa. South African citizens were poisoned, and nobody gave a damn. Our local government sold us out. So yeah. So if that is fine, I mean, I can be adjourn the meeting. It is article. But thank you very much, Ita. Thanks for assisting us. Appreciate that. And I hope, I mean, like, if there's any queries, people can check the Charleston Hill Action Group.
I will post the
group,
link.
Facebook. They can check why, and they can check the concerned Rappenstein residents. And I do post on Valpals as well. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you guys. Enjoy. Have a nice day. Okay, bye.